My family gave me the worst room on the family trip. My mom said, "He's the spare. He'll take anything." They didn't know I inherited the hotel from my grandpa, so I showed them exactly who controlled the keys. Hey Reddit, my family always treated me like the failure of the group, so when grandpa left me his entire hotel, I kept it quiet. Then came the family trip, where they stuck me in the worst room and mocked me nonstop. Before that chaos unfolded, here's how it all really began. The family reunion invitation came 3 months ago. Same hotel as always, Grandpa's old place on the coast, except now the place was mine, and they had no idea. I'm a wine consultant, built a business sourcing rare bottles for private collectors and high-end restaurants. Last year I cleared close to $500,000 after expenses. But to my family, I'm still the failure who plays with bottles instead of getting a real job. My sister Zoe is the golden child. Always has been. Bank executive, corner office, the works. Her husband David is exactly what you'd expect. Loud, flashy, thinks his leased Range Rover makes him important. My Aunt Nora is the family's professional excuse maker. Every toxic thing someone does, she's right there with her signature phrases. Now, to be fair. Or, let's be reasonable here. Like she's the narrator for enabling dysfunction. 6 months ago, Grandpa died. Left me the hotel in a private trust. $28 million in property value, fully paid off. The will reading was private. Just me, his lawyer Connor, and paperwork that changed everything. I remember the last time I saw Grandpa alive. 2 weeks before the end. He was in his office at the hotel. He pulled something from his desk drawer. A vintage master key on a silver chain. The original from when he'd built the place 40 years ago. "This opens every door in the building," he said, pressing it into my palm. "But more importantly, it's a reminder. Keys represent responsibility, not privilege." He handed me a folder. Letters, emails, documents, showing years of my family trying to position themselves as the rightful heirs. "Your father came last month. Brought David. They wanted to buy the hotel. Offered me 40% of its value. When I said no, they called me senile. Started talking about incompetency proceedings. That's when you changed the will? That's when I confirmed what I already knew. They don't see legacy. They see assets." He leaned forward. "Your mother wrote me 23 letters in 5 years. All about how you weren't ready. How Zoe should inherit. There's one more thing. In the trust, I added a clause. If any family member contests the ownership or spreads defamatory claims about you, a significant amount gets donated to the Coastal Preservation Fund. They lose access permanently. A booby trap. A consequence. Consequences aren't punishment. They're just reality catching up to choices. I wore that key on a chain under my shirt every day since. The drive to the hotel was 4 hours. I spent most of it thinking about a conversation I'd overheard when I was 16. Christmas dinner. Dad talking to Uncle Greg in the hallway. He's soft. Always has been. Tasting and fancy bottles. What kind of man builds a career around that? "At least Zoe has her head on straight," Uncle Greg had replied. I'd stood there holding 2 glasses, listening to my own father call me soft, filed it away with all the other moments that taught me exactly where I stood. There was another moment from when I was 14. Science fair at school. Built this project on wine terroir. Won first place? Mom dismissed it as a little project when I came home. Grandpa drove 3 hours that night to see my trophy. When I pulled up to the hotel, the valet recognized me immediately, but caught my subtle headshake. He just nodded and took my keys without using my name. Before I went inside, I stopped him quietly. "Normal guest treatment this weekend. Use sir in public areas. No names in front of my family." "Understood, sir." Inside, the lobby was exactly as Grandpa had designed it. My family was already gathered near the concierge desk. Zoe holding court, showing off her upgraded anniversary ring that David probably couldn't afford. David laughing too loud at his own jokes. Mom saw me first. Her smile dropped. "Didn't think you'd make it, Nathan," she said flatly. "Wouldn't miss it." David looked me over. "Still driving that old Civic? When you gonna upgrade, buddy?" The Civic was paid off. His Range Rover had a loan I'd seen him brag about online. 60 months at 7%. But sure, I needed the upgrade. "Maybe next year." Aunt Nora appeared beside Mom. "Now, Nathan, don't take that the wrong way. David's just making conversation. You know how he is." Right. Making conversation. The hotel manager, Julian, was handling check-ins. He'd worked under Grandpa for 12 years. We'd had a long conversation 3 days ago about this weekend. He knew exactly what was happening and why. Room assignments started. Zoe and David got the Ocean View Presidential Suite. Top floor, private terrace, 1,500 square feet. Mom and Dad got the Executive Harbor Suite. My cousins Kendall and Brett got deluxe premium rooms. Then came mine. And for Nathan, Mom announced, taking the key card from Julian before he could give it to me. Room 114. She'd insisted on handling all the reservations and check-ins as the family organizer. Julian's face went carefully blank. We both knew what room 114 was. First floor, next to the laundry facility, 180 square feet. No view except the loading dock where delivery trucks backed up at 5 a.m. The cheapest, loudest room in the building. Mrs. Edwards, Julian started carefully, we have several other rooms available. This is fine, Mom cut him off. Nathan's practical. He doesn't need anything fancy. Practical, like she was describing furniture. Julian's face stayed carefully blank, but I caught the tension in his jaw. Room 114 was a legacy overflow room we kept for emergencies. We almost never put guests in it. David grinned. Gonna be cozy down there with the washing machines, huh? Aunt Nora jumped in. Let's be reasonable here. It's just a place to sleep. Nathan probably won't even notice. I looked at Julian. He maintained his professional expression, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. I gave him a small nod. Room 114 sounds perfect, I said calmly. I took the key card and headed for the elevator. Behind me, I heard Kendall whisper to Brett, loud enough to make sure I heard, "Guess we know who the spare is." Brett snorted. Always has been. The room was exactly what I expected. Single bed from a budget motel, tiny window-facing dumpsters, constant hum of industrial washers through the wall. Bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. I dropped my bag and sat on the bed. Springs creaked. From Zoe's suite, you could probably see the whole coastline. Down here, I could hear trucks backing up and someone yelling about deliveries. I pulled out the master key, ran my thumb over the worn silver. "Let them show you who they are," he'd said. "All right then, let's see how far they'll take it." Dinner that night was at the hotel's main restaurant. Floor-to-ceiling windows, ocean views, the whole luxury experience. They'd reserved the best table. My seat was at the end, partially blocked by a decorative pillar. David ordered the $120 ribeye. Zoe got the market-price lobster. Mom and Dad ordered premium seafood. Kendall and Brett got appetizers that cost more than most people's entire meals. I ordered the house salad, $22. Dad laughed when he saw my order. "Come on, son. You can do better than that. We'll cover you if money's tight." "Salad's fine." A server approached to refill water. Dad didn't look up, just snapped his fingers at her and pointed at his glass. "Excuse me," I said to the server. "Thank you for your service." She looked surprised, gave me a small smile. "Of course, sir." After she left, Dad frowned at me. "Why are you making a production out of simple service?" "I'm not. I'm treating her like a person. She's paid to serve. That's her job." Aunt Nora leaned in. "That's not what he meant, Nathan. Your father was just getting her attention." David leaned back in his chair, that smirk on his face. "When was your last real paycheck, Nathan?" "Honest question." "Last week. Client in Singapore. 6-figure contract for their private collection." The table went quiet for maybe 3 seconds. Then David decided I was lying and laughed it off. "Sure, buddy, sure." Zoe jumped in. "Nathan, I'm just saying, if you focused more on networking instead of your wine hobby, you might actually build something substantial." "Hobby?" "I'd sourced a 1961 Chateau Latour last month that sold for $85,000. I network plenty." "With who? Other wine hobbyists?" "With collectors in 14 countries. But yeah, let's call them hobbyists." The same server returned with bread. Dad waved her away impatiently without looking. "We're fine. Just bring the entrees." She nodded and left. I saw her face, though. The practiced neutral expression service workers develop when customers treat them like garbage. Mom steered the conversation back to Zoe's recent promotion. Her new title, increased salary, future prospects. Dad kept toasting her success. Nobody looked at me. Then something interesting happened. The head chef, Antonio, came out to greet VIP tables. He was working his way through the dining room when he spotted me. He made eye contact, gave me this respectful nod. Nothing over the top, just professional acknowledgement. A server delivered a note to our table a moment later, from Chef Antonio. He says, "Welcome back." My family stared at the note like it was written in code. "How do you know the chef?" Zoe asked, voice higher than usual. "We've talked before." Truth was, I'd hired Antonio 4 months ago, doubled his salary, gave him full creative control over the menu, but they didn't need to know that yet. David leaned forward. "You trying to impress us? Acting like you know people here?" "Not acting like anything. Just acknowledged a greeting." As the main courses arrived, the comments got sharper. David was on his 3rd scotch, getting louder. "You know what Nathan's problem is?" he announced like I wasn't there. "No ambition. Content being average while the rest of us actually build something." Dad opened his mouth like he was about to say something. Mom's hand landed on his arm. He closed his mouth, stayed quiet. I put down my fork carefully. "Define average. You know what I mean. Playing it safe. No risk, no reward." Interesting take. A different server approached to clear plates. Zoe didn't even acknowledge her. Just kept talking while the woman reached around her to collect dishes. Dessert came. Expensive items for them. I passed. Probably can't afford it, Brett muttered, not quite under his breath. After dinner ended, I caught Julian's eye. He waited until I was alone near the service corridor, away from my family. Sir, a word? We went to the back office. Grandpa's old space. Sir, I have to be honest. Watching them treat you like this is extremely difficult. I sat in Grandpa's old chair. Still smelled faintly of his cologne. I know. Then why allow it? Because I need them to show me exactly who they are. No filters, no performance. Julian nodded slowly. What do you need from me? Documentation, every incident this weekend. Timestamps, staff statements, security footage, everything. Especially anytime they mistreat staff. Keep it organized. If anyone crosses a legal line, I want us ready. Understood. After he left, I sat in that office for another hour, going through Grandpa's things, his awards, photos through the decades. Then I found it, tucked in a photo of me and Grandpa. I must have been about 9, standing in the hotel lobby, his hand on my shoulder. On the back, in his handwriting, Nathan, the one who listens. Before leaving, I pulled up the security system. David at the pool, networking, Dad at dinner, snapping fingers at staff, Zoe treating servers like they were invisible. Julian was already building a file. They'd spent one day building the case against themselves. Morning came with delivery trucks at 5 a.m. I'd slept maybe 4 hours. Breakfast was in the main dining room, buffet style. My family was loading up plates like they were at an all-you-can-eat that might run out of food. I grabbed fruit and yogurt. I kept my face neutral and ate. Zoe was at the buffet station arguing with a server. Her voice was getting louder. I'm sorry, ma'am, but the wine service last night wasn't complimentary. Do you know who my family is? Zoe cut her off. My grandfather built this place. Comp it. The server looked panicked. Ma'am, I don't have authorization. Then get someone who does. I walked over. Problem? Zoe turned. They're trying to charge us for wine. From our family's hotel. It's not your family's hotel. And she's doing her job. Back off. Zoe's face went red. Excuse me? Apologize to her or leave the buffet. Zoe stared, then walked away without apologizing. The server looked at me gratefully. Thank you, sir. Kendall had watched the whole thing from her table. When our eyes met, she looked away quickly, uncomfortable. They'd planned activities for the day. Pool time, spa treatments, yacht tour, premium everything. At the pool, David started a conversation with another guest. Older guy, looked wealthy. Within 2 minutes, David was implying he had connections to the hotel ownership. Yeah, family ties, he said casually. My father-in-law basically built this place. We're here for a family business meeting, discussing expansion plans, new properties. Always thinking 3 steps ahead, you know? The guest looked impressed. Must be quite the operation. How many properties in the portfolio now? David didn't miss a beat. Several. We keep a low profile about it. Discretion, you understand. I watched this from across the pool. David was networking using my grandfather's legacy as his own leverage, building business relationships on lies, using a dead man's reputation to make himself look important. The guest handed David a business card. We should connect. I'm always looking for strong partnerships in hospitality. David pocketed the card like he'd just closed a deal. By lunch, things got tense. The restaurant bill for our group came to the table. Dad glanced at it, then looked at the server. Charge everything to the executive harbor suite. The server nodded and started to leave. Wait, I said. Mine's separate. Dad frowned. Don't be difficult. I'm covering the group meal. You can settle with me later. I'd be expected to reimburse him for my salad while he wrote off their $100 entrees. I'll handle my own bill. We're not going to nickel and dime each other all weekend. Then don't. Everyone pays their own way. The table went silent. Zoe looked at me like I'd insulted a veteran. Wow, okay. Didn't realize you were this petty. I stood up. I'm not petty. I'm done funding disrespect. Left cash for my meal and walked out. Behind me, I heard Mom start damage control. He's always been sensitive about money. I don't think he's well. Emotionally, I mean. I stopped, turned around, walked back to the table. What did you just say? Mom looked startled. Nothing, Nathan. I was just explaining. You told them I'm not well, emotionally. Now I'm just saying intent matters, Aunt Nora started. Stop. My voice was calm, flat. You're lying about what you just said because you got caught. I heard you. You're telling people I'm unstable so they won't take me seriously. Mom's face went pale. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. Keep going. I want to see how far you'll take this. That afternoon, I had spa reservations. When I showed up, the receptionist looked uncomfortable. She lowered her voice. Sir, I'm so sorry. There was an attempt to cancel your reservation this morning. By who? Your mother. She called from your room phone and confirmed your date of birth. We declined the cancellation because only the booking guest can modify their own reservation, but I wanted you to know about the attempt. My mother had tried to impersonate me to cancel my spa appointment in my own hotel. Thank you for following proper procedure, I said. Thank you for following procedure. Please write an incident report. Her eyes widened slightly. Of course, sir. Julian found me in the lobby later. Sir, we need to talk. Your brother-in-law tried to charge a $1,500 yacht rental to the family suite. He told the marina we had a corporate account. Do we? Not under his name or your father's. He was attempting fraud. Put it in the file. Already done. The marina owner contacted us directly. They're considering pressing charges if payment isn't received. Tell them to hold off, for now. That evening was the formal gala dinner, black tie event in the hotel's grand ballroom. I'd brought a decent suit, except when I went to change, I got a call from valet services. My suit jacket had been sent out for pressing. When it came back, it was soaking wet and reeked of perfume. Someone had told the valet staff that I'd requested it be treated with fabric refresher, Zoe's perfume. She'd sabotaged my outfit by manipulating the staff. I called Julian. I need a suit, something appropriate for tonight's gala. Send it to room 114. 20 minutes later, a staff member arrived with a perfectly fitted Tom Ford suit, $3,000 retail. I'd had it tailored months ago and stored it in my office. When I walked into the gala wearing that suit, Zoe's face went pale. Where did you get that? Had it sent up. Why? That's a designer suit, Nathan. How could I possibly what? Afford it? Interesting assumption. David was watching me now with new eyes. The gala was peak performance theater. My family networked like they owned the place. Dad was telling people about our family's hospitality legacy. Mom was name-dropping Grandpa. Zoe worked the room like she was campaigning for office. I watched her thank a server loudly when a CEO she'd been talking to could see. Generous tip. Big smile. The server looked confused by the sudden kindness. The CEO looked impressed. When he walked away, Zoe's smile dropped instantly. I stayed near the bar, watched, took mental notes. Uncle Greg found me there. He had that look. That, I need to cross a boundary, look. Nathan, I was thinking, since we're all family here, maybe you could talk to management. See if we could get some comps on future stays. Friend and family discount type situation. Why would I do that? Well, your grandfather built this place. They must have some respect for the family name. Leverage Grandpa's name for free rooms. I'll think about it, I said. He smiled like I'd agreed. Appreciate it, nephew. Later that night, I checked with security. Uncle Greg had tried accessing the administrative offices, claimed he was just looking around because we're family. Morning of day 3 came with another crisis. Julian called my room at 6 a.m. Sir, we have multiple situations. The marina is demanding immediate payment for the yacht rental your brother-in-law attempted to fraudulently charge. Your uncle was caught in restricted areas again last night. 3rd time. And your mother called down at midnight. Told the night manager you were experiencing a mental health episode and that staff should not take requests from you seriously. There it was. The smear campaign in full effect. Add it to the file. And Julian, today's the day. Get Connor here by noon. Make sure we have the full incident packet ready. Understood, sir. By breakfast, the family was buzzing about misunderstandings with staff. David looked angry. Dad looked concerned. Zoe was in damage control mode. I walked up to their table. They stopped talking immediately. Morning. Nathan, Dad said carefully. We were just discussing a situation. What kind of situation? David jumped in, defensive. Nothing. Some junior employee didn't understand a simple request. What was the request? Just asking about potential upgrades. Standard stuff. She got weird about it. Julian had told me the full story. David had become verbally aggressive with a desk clerk when she refused to comp services. He'd called her incompetent and threatened to have her fired. Asking for comps is standard? I asked. When you know how to work the system, David said with this smirk. Some of us know how to get what we want. I looked at Dad. And you? What's your role in all this? Nathan, what's gotten into you? You've been hostile all weekend. Have I? Interesting take. Mom jumped in. Nathan, honey, we're worried about you. You haven't been yourself. You mean the way you discussed me with the front desk? Told them I'm not well? That they shouldn't take me seriously? Her face went white. I was just concerned. You were laying groundwork, trying to discredit me before I could say anything about your behavior. Aunt Nora stepped in. Now, Nathan, to be fair, your mother is just worried about your mental health. Stop. My voice was calm, flat. You don't get to reframe this. I heard what was said. Documentation doesn't lie. Dad tried the unity approach. Son, Whatever's bothering you, we can work through it. But you need to calm down. I'm perfectly calm. I've been calm all weekend while you've been treating staff like garbage, attempting fraud, trespassing, and running a smear campaign. All documented. David stood up fast, chair scraping. What are you talking about? The fraudulent yacht charge, Uncle Greg's trespassing, Mom's smear campaign, the spa cancellation fraud. Everything's logged. Zoe's voice went shrill. You've been spying on us? I've been watching. There's a difference. This is insane, David said. You're actually insane. You're doing it again. Dad stood up now too. That's enough. I don't know what game you think you're playing, but it ends now. We're family. You don't get to treat people like this and walk away. We're leaving, David announced. Come on, Zoe. Actually, I said calmly, you're not leaving until we settle accounts. The yacht rental you tried to charge fraudulently. All of it needs to be paid before anyone checks out. David's face went red. He stepped toward me. Close. Too close. Chest puffed out. You don't get to embarrass us like this. Not after everything. He jabbed his finger toward my chest. Once. Twice. Almost touching me. I didn't move. You need to step back. Or what? He sneered. Then he grabbed my arm. Tried to pull me toward him. Aggressive. Threatening. I stayed calm. Security. 2 security guards who'd been stationed nearby immediately moved in. Julian had positioned them there this morning, anticipating trouble. Sir, one of them addressed David. Remove your hands. Now. David laughed. Didn't let go. You're kidding. The security guard's tone went flat. Sir, remove your hands now, or you will be physically removed from the property. Something in the guard's voice made David hesitate. He let go. Stepped back. What's going on here? Dad demanded. The guard kept his eyes on David. This gentleman just assaulted the property owner. That's grounds for immediate removal and a trespass notice. The words hung in the air. Property owner. A staff member at the coffee station went completely still. A nearby guest whispered to her companion. Mom's face drained of color. You could hear a pin drop. The breakfast room had gone completely silent. Other guests were watching. Staff had stopped. Everyone was staring. Property owner? Zoe's voice was barely a whisper. Connor appeared from the lobby, briefcase in hand. Perfect timing. Julian had called him earlier. Good morning, everyone. I'm Connor, Mr. Edwards' attorney. I believe we have some matters to discuss. Dad found his voice. This is ridiculous. Nathan doesn't own this hotel. Actually, he does, Connor said calmly. And it's fully documented. Mr. Edwards inherited the property through a private trust established by his grandfather 6 months ago. Mom's face had gone completely pale. No, that's not right. If anyone was getting this hotel, your daughter, I finished. Or your husband. Or David. Yeah, Grandpa mentioned you all felt that way. More guests had gathered. This was becoming a scene. Brett naturally had his phone out, recording everything. David was shaking his head. This is a setup. You manipulated him. Connor pulled out a folder. Your grandfather was fully competent when he established the trust. We have medical evaluations, psychiatric clearance, and detailed documentation showing years of your family's attempts to acquire the property. We tried to buy it legitimately, Dad protested. At 40% of market value, I said, after calling him senile, after discussing incompetency proceedings. Dad's mouth opened, closed, no words. I pulled out my own folder. Attempted fraud with the yacht rental, trespassing in restricted areas, systematic mistreatment of employees, a documented smear campaign where my mother told staff I was mentally unstable and shouldn't be taken seriously. Mom made this sound, half gasp, half sob. Nathan, please what? Pretend this didn't happen? A hotel guest, older woman in expensive jewelry, spoke up. Excuse me, but did you just say this young man owns the hotel? Yes, ma'am, Connor confirmed. For 6 months now. She looked at my family with barely concealed disgust. And you've been treating him like this? In his own establishment? Mom tried to salvage something. You don't understand. This is a family matter. It stopped being private when it involved my staff and my property, I said. David's face went red. This is insane. You don't get to do this. The security guards stepped closer. They'd been watching him all morning. Actually, I said calmly, most of your charges have been fraudulently attempted, or you've tried to have them removed through manipulation. The marina wants payment. I can contact law enforcement right now if needed. His face went from red to pale in seconds. But you won't, Dad said, trying to sound confident. Because we're family. I looked at him for a long moment. Then something in me cracked. Just a little. My hands were shaking. I had to clench them to keep steady. You're right about one thing. I'm not calling the police. Because unlike you, I'm not interested in humiliation. I'm interested in consequences. I had to pause, take a breath. That soft comment from years ago was echoing in my head. The urge to prove him wrong was almost overwhelming, but I stayed calm, focused. I nodded to the security guards. Escort Mr. David off the property. Immediately. He's banned from returning. File the trespass notice. What? Zoe's voice went shrill. You can't kick him out. I own the building. Yes, I can. The guards started moving David toward the exit. He was struggling, shouting, This is illegal. I'll sue you. Julian stepped forward professionally. We'll need to discuss new room arrangements and outstanding balances. That's when it really hit them. This wasn't theater. This was a power shift happening in real time. I turned to Dad. You're moving out of the executive suite. Your stay is terminated unless you agree to move to standard accommodations under a new payment agreement today. Comply or check out entirely. Nathan, son, please. After everything, you call me son. My voice was quieter now, almost sad. You called me soft to relatives when I was 16. You tried to buy this hotel from Grandpa for 40% of its value. Called him senile when he refused. All documented. His mouth opened, closed. No words. Julian appeared with 2 staff members and a luggage cart. Mr. and Mrs. Edwards, we'll help you relocate if you choose to stay under the new terms. The lobby had filled with guests. They all watched as my parents' belongings were loaded onto the cart. Dad tried one more time. We can discuss this privately. Connor stepped forward. You can accept the new terms or check out entirely. Your choice, sir. Dad went quiet. Followed the luggage cart. Mom found her voice. After everything I did for you, I'm your mother. The tears that followed felt rehearsed, performative. I looked at Uncle Greg. You're checking out today. Now. The trespassing is documented. You have 2 hours. He started to protest. I held up my hand. 2 hours. Zoe tried once more. Soft voice, gentle approach. Nathan, what do you want from us? I wanted respect. You wanted a resource. Those aren't the same thing. Aunt Nora, who'd been quiet, finally spoke. Now, Nathan, to be fair, no. My voice was flat. No more, to be fair. No more excuses. You've spent this entire weekend making excuses for terrible behavior. That ends now. She looked hurt. We had no idea you felt this way. You weren't paying attention. Connor cleared his throat. There's one more thing. The trust includes a specific clause. If any family member contests the ownership or spreads lies about Mr. Edwards, a substantial amount will be donated to the Coastal Preservation Fund, and that person loses access permanently. Everyone went very still. So choose your next moves carefully, I said. The crowd was still watching. Brett was still filming. My family was finally understanding they'd underestimated the wrong person. The next few hours were chaos. Managed chaos. David was escorted off the property. Zoe went with him, crying. Real tears this time, real distress. As they loaded the Range Rover, I headed to the front desk. The junior clerk who'd stood her ground against David was working her shift. She looked exhausted. Excuse me, I said. Lucy, right? She turned, nervous. Yes, sir. I'm sorry about all the trouble. You didn't cause trouble. You did exactly what you should have done. Someone tried to compromise you and you refused. That takes courage. Her eyes went wide. Oh, thank you, sir. I handed her an envelope. $500 bonus. For maintaining integrity. You represented this hotel the way my grandfather would have wanted. She opened it, stared at the check. Her hands started shaking. Sir, I just did my job. Exactly. And your job will never include tolerating abuse from guests. If anyone ever pressures you like that again, you call me directly. Understood? She nodded, eyes filling with tears. Thank you. Thank you so much. After she left, Julian appeared beside me. That was good of you, sir. It's the right thing. Dad and Mom moved to a standard room without much fight. The reality had set in. Uncle Greg checked out within the hour, just loaded his car and left. That afternoon, I called a meeting with all frontline staff. Housekeeping, front desk, restaurant servers. Everyone who'd been affected. They gathered in the employee break room, nervous, uncertain. What happened this weekend was unacceptable, I started. My family treated you poorly. Some were threatened, others pressured, some blamed for things you didn't do. That ends permanently. I looked around the room. If anyone ever treats you the way my family did, you have my permission to refuse service. Call security. Call me directly. Money doesn't buy permission to degrade people. Clear? They nodded. A server from the restaurant raised her hand. What if it's another wealthy guest? Someone important? Same rules apply. Always. Julian spoke up. Your grandfather used to say something. A luxury hotel isn't defined by its marble or its views. It's defined by whether everyone inside it feels valued. That includes staff. Always. Exactly, I said. That's the standard? And if anyone makes you feel otherwise, you come to me. No exception. After the meeting, several staff thanked me personally. One housekeeper, older woman who'd been here since Grandpa's time, squeezed my hand. Your grandfather would be so proud, she whispered. He always said you understood what this place was really about. Another server, young guy who'd witnessed Dad's behavior, approached. Sir, I just want to say thank you for standing up for us. Most owners wouldn't. Then most owners are wrong, I said. Brett tried to post his clipped video online. Made me look like the villain kicking out family. The video started getting attention. Comments were harsh. Then Connor released a formal statement and guests shared their own phone footage from public areas. The marina confirmed the attempted charge. The pattern was obvious. The narrative shifted within hours. Comments changed to, "The family is toxic." He showed incredible restraint. I would have kicked them out day one. Dad's professional network saw the documentation. His LinkedIn activity dropped. Colleagues who usually engaged suddenly went silent. Zoe's carefully curated social media took a hit. Comments asking if this was the same person from the hotel incident. Her bank had questions about professional conduct. David's wealth persona collapsed. People saw him attempting fraud and pressuring staff. His social connections dried up. That night, Zoe came to my office, alone. "Can we talk?" I gestured to a chair. She sat but didn't speak for a moment. When she did, her voice was defensive. "I didn't know about David's fraud attempts. I had no idea. But you knew how he treated staff. You saw it. You did it yourself." Her face flushed. "I'm not saying I'm innocent. I'm just saying I didn't know everything." "You knew enough." Silence. Then something shifted in her expression. The defensiveness cracked. "You're right." Her voice was quieter now. "I knew enough. I saw it and I said nothing because it was easier." She looked at me. "I've been thinking about something Grandpa said. I was maybe 20. Just got a promotion. He said, 'Success without character is just noise.' I thought he was being judgmental." She paused. "I built noise. You built character. That's why he chose you." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know I finally see it. You show up without agenda. You do the right thing when no one's watching." "Why now?" "Because my marriage is ending. My job is on thin ice. My reputation is damaged, and I can't blame you because we did this." "I did this." She stood. "I'm leaving tomorrow, paying my bill, following rules. Then I'm going to figure out how to build something real." At the door, she stopped, looked back. "Is there any chance—" "I hear you," I said. "That doesn't buy access." She nodded slowly. "I understand. Grandpa was right about you." The week after was quiet. No family group chat, no holiday planning calls. Silence. Kendall sent one text. "I need to tell you something." No expectations. I called her that night. "I've spent 10 years watching them treat you like garbage," she said. "Never defended you. Silence is complicity. I was complicit." "Why now?" "Because I watched you stay calm while they attacked. Set boundaries without cruelty. That's integrity. I spent a decade watching it get abused without saying a word." "What do you want, Kendall?" "Nothing. Just telling the truth out loud. You deserved better. They were wrong. I was wrong." First real accountability. "Truth counts for something," I said. We talked for a while. Real conversation. It felt different. 2 weeks later, Connor emailed. 3 family members requested meetings. No. The boundary held. Mom sent cards. Generic apologies. I didn't respond. Dad never reached out. Pride wouldn't let him. A month later, I found Grandpa's journal entry from 6 months before he died. "Nathan came by today. Didn't ask for anything. Just checked on me. The others call when they need something. He calls when he wants nothing. That's why he gets everything. Not because he's perfect, because he understands this isn't a prize. It's a responsibility. And he's the only one who knows the difference." 3 months later, I spoke at the Coastal Business Association Summit. Legacy building and family businesses. I talked about what Grandpa taught me, what it means to inherit something worth protecting. Didn't mention my family by name. Didn't need to. After the speech, a young woman approached. Hospitality student. "How do you handle it when people you love treat you like you're worthless? You set boundaries. Document patterns. When they cross the line, let consequences do the teaching." That must have been hard. Harder was spending 30 years hoping they'd change. People don't change from hope. They change from consequences. That evening, I walked the property. Same route Grandpa took. Out to the beach. Sunset painting the ocean. I pulled out the master key. He'd given me the power to choose. Who deserved access? What boundaries meant? My family thought I was easy. I was patient. There's a difference. The hotel thrived. Kendall stopped by monthly. Real conversations. No agenda. I didn't hear from the rest. That was fine. The entrance still had Grandpa's sign. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. Welcome home. I wore the key every day. Reminder of responsibility. My hotel. My responsibility. My choice. They wanted a convenient relative to use. Didn't expect the backbone. Their mistake, not mine. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true. My fiance announced at our rehearsal dinner, "You're so low class compared to my ex," in front of both our families. I stood up and said, "You're right, I'm also not a cheater." Then I left. Hey Reddit, let me paint the picture here because context matters. I, 29 male, work as a journeyman electrician pulling in about $78,000 a year. Solid money for hands-on work. I've got a decent apartment, a truck I maintain myself, and zero credit card debt. My parents are solid middle-class people. Dad's been running his own small plumbing business for 30 years. Mom's an office manager at a dental practice. They worked their tails off to put me through trade school, and I paid them back every dollar because that's what you do. My ex-fiancée, Tinsley, came from a different universe entirely. Her family has money. Not, we take nice vacations money, country club memberships, family attorney on retainer, vacation home in Hilton Head type money. Her father owns a commercial real estate development company, office parks, strip malls across 3 states. Her mom hasn't worked a day in her life but chairs the family's private foundation, which does community greening initiatives. Basically rich people planting trees for photo ops while writing it off on their taxes. Very tasteful. Very concerned about root systems. Tinsley worked as a development coordinator at the foundation. Let's be real about how she got that position. We met 3 years ago through mutual friends at a party. She was different back then. The first time I met her parents, her mom looked at my truck like I'd driven up in a dumpster. Didn't say anything, just this little nose wrinkle. Then she launched into a 20-minute monologue about the landscaping renovation at their lake house. We're putting in native species. Very tasteful. You have to understand the root systems. Her dad talked about legacy and building something that lasts. Rich people love plant metaphors. Meanwhile, I'm the guy who actually builds and fixes real things. Her dad shook my hand and immediately asked what my 5-year trajectory was. Not, nice to meet you. Straight to interrogating my career potential like I was interviewing for a position. That first dinner at their house was basically a tutorial in how to talk down to someone without technically being rude. Her mom kept refilling my glass while making comments about how refreshing it was to meet someone so grounded. That word, grounded. I'd hear it a lot over the next 3 years. Every time I disagreed with them about anything, every time I pushed back on a decision, I was being so grounded about it. Took me a while to realize it was their code word for stay in your lane. Her dad grilled me about my retirement contributions like he was auditing my life choices. At one point during dinner, I mispronounced charcuterie, and Tinsley corrected me in front of everyone. It's charcuterie, babe. The T is soft. She smiled while she said it, like she was helping. But the way her mom nodded, the way her sister smirked into her glass, told me everything I needed to know. That wasn't about pronunciation. That was about ranking me, establishing the hierarchy early. Tinsley just sat there smiling, occasionally touching my arm like I was a nervous rescue dog. She was trying to socialize. Her sister Piper showed up halfway through dessert. She asked Tinsley, not me Tinsley, where I trained. When Tinsley said trade school, Piper nodded slowly. That's nice. Very practical. I noticed their family attorney was there too. Not for dinner. He'd just stopped by to drop off some papers for her dad. But he lingered. Stayed for coffee. Watched. Every family event I attended over the next 3 years, he was somewhere nearby. Like a trained dog that smells boundaries. I smiled. Filed that away. Over the 3 years we dated, the comments stacked up. Little jabs disguised as compliments if you squinted hard enough. Her sister, when she saw me rewiring a light fixture, that's so charmingly blue collar. Her mom, when I mentioned overtime, it's wonderful that you're so industrious. Her dad, when I disagreed about the wedding venue, you're being very grounded about this, Mason. The worst one happened about 4 months before the wedding. Brunch with her parents and their friends. I ordered eggs and asked for hot sauce. Tinsley leaned over and said, loud enough for everyone, "Babe, they have a really nice hollandaise. Maybe try that instead?" Then she added, "He's still getting used to this kind of thing. Getting used to this kind of thing. Like enjoying hot sauce was a class deficiency. But we were solid, or so I thought. In love. The engagement happened 8 months before the wedding. I proposed at this little Italian place where we had our first date. Nothing fancy, but meaningful. She said yes. I was genuinely happy. Then the wedding planning started, and everything went sideways. Her parents insisted on paying for most of it. Turns out it was just their way of taking control. Every decision turned into this fake negotiation, where they'd ask my opinion and then do whatever they wanted anyway. I suggested cheaper vendors. They hired expensive ones. I wanted my uncle to officiate. They hired a retired federal judge her dad knew from the country club. Her mom loved assigning seats at events. It's about flow, she'd say, moving names around on seating charts like she was placing chess pieces on a board. I watched her do it at her own birthday dinner. Put anyone she wanted to impress near herself, anyone she didn't near the kitchen. Power moves disguised as party planning. Every time, I got outvoted 3-1. Tinsley always sided with her parents. Babe, it's just easier this way. They're paying for it. I put up with it because I had a plan. Not because I was weak, because I was smart. See, I was 6 months away from my master electrician certification. Finish that, and my pay goes up big time. Already accepted into the program, already started coursework. If I blew up my personal life mid-program, my focus would be shot. Failed exam, delayed promotion, lost the wage bump. I wasn't handing them that collateral damage, so I waited. About 6 weeks before the wedding, their family attorney sent over a prenuptial agreement for review. I wasn't about to sign anything without my own legal counsel, so I called my lawyer. He read through it and called me back within an hour. This isn't a prenup, he said. It's a hostage note in Times New Roman. There's a moral turpitude clause, a reputation damage clause, and a disclosure requirement. You have to list any prior civil disputes, restraining orders, eviction actions. They're asking for your dirt. If they're asking for disclosures, we're verifying theirs. We pulled public civil dockets on everyone in that family. Not because I cared about her past, but because rich families love finding dirt and calling it concern. I wanted to know what skeletons they'd weaponize against me before they got the chance. One case popped up tied to Tinsley's old college address. Dismissed, sure, but the complaint was still in the online docket. Tinsley's roommate Chelsea had filed for unpaid rent and property damage after Tinsley broke the lease early. The docket listed Exhibit A through F, but didn't show them online. We went down to the clerk's office and pulled the physical file. Chelsea's statement laid out the whole mess. Screenshots attached as exhibits. Preston had been cheating with Chelsea behind Tinsley's back. When Tinsley found out, she blamed Chelsea, not Preston. Took Preston back anyway. He cheated again. The whole thing imploded when Tinsley trashed Chelsea's belongings and moved out mid-lease. The screenshots documented everything. Preston telling Chelsea it was just physical. Tinsley's text calling Chelsea a scheming homewrecker, while simultaneously forgiving Preston. First cheating incident, sophomore year. Second, junior year, different girl. Third, senior year, back to Chelsea. 3 strikes and she still didn't leave him. She just destroyed her roommate's stuff instead. I read through those exhibits 3 times. The same guy her family still talked about like he was the one that got away. The same guy apparently invited to our rehearsal dinner. I sat with that information for 6 weeks. Didn't say anything. The past was the past. She'd chosen me. Whatever happened with Preston was ancient history. But I filed it away. Insurance policy. Just in case someone decided to test me. The rehearsal dinner was at Harrington's, this upscale restaurant her parents picked. Private room, 40 guests. More her family's crowd than mine. Her dad was footing the bill, which he reminded everyone of approximately 6 times before the appetizers arrived. I sat at the head table next to Tinsley, looking like I belonged in a room full of people who spent more on their watches than I made in a month. My parents were at the next table over. My dad in the nicest suit he owned, looking uncomfortable. He kept tugging at his collar like it was trying to strangle him. My mom smiling, but with that tight expression she gets when she's around people she doesn't trust. My brother Trent was next to them, doing his best to make small talk with some cousin of Tinsley's who looked like she'd rather be literally anywhere else. The seating chart had been a power move, just like her mom's birthday dinner. Her family dominated the front. Mine was pushed toward the back, near the service entrance. Even the head table put me between Tinsley and her maid of honor, with her parents directly across like supervisors at a performance review. Then I noticed who was sitting 3 tables back, right in the legacy section, with the old family friends and business associates. Preston, the ex. Seated close enough to be seen, far enough to technically avoid direct confrontation. I watched her dad walk over and introduce Preston to some business contact, hand on his shoulder, laughing at something Preston said. Like Preston was still family, like he still belonged there more than I did. I told Tinsley, he's not sitting in the same room as my parents. Fix it or I will. She barely glanced up from her phone. His dad and my dad golfed together. They're old family friends. It would have been weird not to invite him. Just ignore him. I'm not ignoring anything. I'm telling you this is a problem. She patted my arm. You're overthinking it, babe. You're being so grounded about this. There it was again. That word. I excused myself to use the restroom. On the way, I flagged down the wedding planner. My parents are seated in the back. Move them to table 2. She started to object about the seating chart. I said, do it or I'm walking out before the entrees. She did it. Then I texted my best man, Cormac. If I stand up during dinner, you stand up. No questions, no debate. His reply came back in about 30 seconds. Copy. I went back to the table. Tinsley didn't notice I'd been gone 7 minutes. I looked at Preston. He caught my eye and gave me this little nod. Not friendly. Entitled. The look guys get when they think being tall counts as a personality. Like he was checking out the replacement and finding me lacking. Wrong move, buddy. I know everything. Then, right before the toast started, her father stood up with a manila envelope. I noticed their family attorney was sitting 2 tables over. Not as a guest, as backup. Same guy who'd stopped by that first dinner 3 years ago. Same guy who was always somewhere nearby at every family event. Before we begin the festivities, her father announced, there's a small administrative matter. Mason, our family attorney, drew up a prenuptial agreement. Standard practice. Just need your signature before Saturday. He slid the envelope across the table. My full legal name printed on it in thick black marker. Inside, I could see sticky tabs marking where I was supposed to sign. Like they expected me to fold on command. 40 people watching. My parents' faces frozen. I noticed Tinsley's cousin had her phone out, recording, making a wedding week montage. The family loved documentation. I didn't touch the envelope. Sir, I'm an electrician. I don't sign live wires in public. I slid it back toward him like it was contaminated. Tinsley was supposed to mention the updates. He glanced at his daughter with a flicker of annoyance. Minor oversight, but it's fairly straightforward. Protects the family trust, the foundation assets, the real estate holdings, you understand. I understand you're ambushing me with legal documents at a rehearsal dinner instead of going through proper channels. That's not how I do business. His smile didn't reach his eyes. We're all family here. No need for formalities. The attorney casually slid his business card across the table toward me. Call me if you have questions. Like I was already the problem. Like needing time to review a legal document made me difficult. Cool. Then don't ambush me like I'm signing a lease renewal. I slid the envelope back further. My attorney will review it. If it's reasonable, we'll talk. Not tonight. Not like this. The silence was suffocating. Her dad's jaw tightened, but he recovered quickly. Of course. Take your time. He sat down. The envelope stayed on the table between us like evidence at a deposition. My dad's knuckles were white around his fork. My mom looked like she wanted to disappear. Tinsley wouldn't meet my eyes. Then the toast started. Her dad went first, gave a speech about welcoming me to the family, except it felt like terms and conditions. He talked about opportunities and building something together, and roots and legacy. Never mentioned love, just corporate merger energy. People clapped politely. I smiled and nodded like I was supposed to. My dad went next. He's not a big public speaker, gets nervous in front of crowds, but he stood up there and talked about how proud he was of me, how I'd always been a hard worker, how I'd put myself through trade school, how Tinsley made me happy, and that's all he ever wanted for his kids. My mom was tearing up. Tinsley squeezed my hand. For about 30 seconds, everything felt normal. Then Tinsley stood up. She stood there for a second, scanning the room like she was checking who was watching. Then she started telling the story of how we met. How she wasn't sure about me at first because I seemed too simple. But she'd given me a chance, and here we were. People chuckled at the appropriate moments. I smiled, thinking this was cute. She was being self-deprecating, relatable. Earlier that evening, she'd made 2 smaller comments. One about how sweet it was that I'd helped the caterers move a table. Another about how my dad's toast was so earnest, testing the waters, seeing if I'd push back. I hadn't. So she escalated. See, here's what I figured out later. She wasn't competing with Preston romantically anymore. She was competing with him socially. The low-class comment wasn't really about me. It was her flex to her crowd. Look how far down I'm willing to reach. Look how authentic I am. The wedding wasn't a marriage to her. It was a promotion review. Her parents were the real relationship she was committed to. She didn't hate my background. She hated that she couldn't control it. That's why she loved me when I was useful and attacked when I set boundaries. Then her expression changed. Got this faraway look, like she was remembering something specific. You know, she said, glancing over at Preston's table, my ex had this polish to him. Private school education. Knew which fork to use. Spoke French. Very refined. The room got quiet. Not silent yet, but that weird quiet where everyone can feel something bad is coming. I glanced at Preston. He was watching with this smug little smile, like he knew exactly where this was going. But he was all surface. She laughed, and a few people chuckled nervously. My fiancé here, he's real, authentic. She turned to look at me, and what I saw in her eyes wasn't love. It was something else. Something that had been hiding there the whole time. Even if he is pretty low class compared to someone like that, the room didn't go silent like in movies. It went wrong in tiny steps. Someone stopped chewing. A fork tapped a plate and nobody laughed it off. One of the servers froze with a tray halfway to our table like she'd just heard a car crash in her head. My dad's hand didn't move, but the tendons in his wrist stood up like cables. My mom's face went pale. My brother looked like he was about to jump out of his chair. Her parents were smiling, actually smiling, like she'd said something charming. And Preston, grinning ear to ear. This wasn't a slip-up. This was how they all saw me. Low class. The charity case who'd convinced their daughter to slum it. And Tinsley had just said it out loud in front of everyone. I sat there for maybe 5 seconds. Felt like an hour. Then I stood up, slowly, deliberately, took a sip of water because my mouth had gone dry. Low class? I said. Let it hang there. You're right. I'm not polished. Tinsley's smile faltered. She thought I was agreeing, going along with it like I always did. I also don't cheat with roommates. Public record's public. Her face drained of color. Her mom gasped. Her dad's smile vanished. Someone at the back of the room said, "Oh my God," just loud enough to carry. Preston's face fell like his brain finally caught up to what just happened. Short, clean, unarguable, and it implied I had more if they wanted to keep going. I set my water glass down. Enjoy your forks. Then I turned to my parents. Mom, Dad, let's go. I walked out of that restaurant with my entire family and Cormac right behind me. Didn't look back. Could hear Tinsley calling my name, something between a shout and a sob, but I kept walking. Through the lobby, past the valet stand, out into the parking lot where the air finally felt breathable. Through the restaurant window, I could see chaos unfolding inside. Tinsley's mom fanning herself, her dad on the phone, probably calling their attorney out of habit. Tinsley frozen at the table, Preston trying to leave without being noticed. And Tinsley's cousin still had her phone out, still recording. Good. Let them all marinate in that. I got home around 10 p.m., sat on my couch for about 20 minutes in complete silence. My phone was blowing up, but I'd put it on silent before I even left the parking lot. Then I got to work. I called the wedding planner at 11 p.m., left a voicemail because she didn't answer. Hi, this is Mason. The wedding's canceled. I'll handle cancellations for my vendors. Please send me a breakdown of what I owe. Thanks. Professional, efficient, no emotion. Next, I texted Cormac. Wedding's off. I'll explain later. Can you let the groomsmen know? His response came back in about 30 seconds. Holy cow. You okay? Need me to come over? I'm good. Talk tomorrow. Then I went to bed. Slept like a rock, which surprised me. I thought I'd be up all night spiraling. Instead, I was out within minutes. Guess my brain knew it had made the right call. Woke up to 94 missed calls and roughly 180 text messages. I made coffee, sat down at my kitchen table, and started going through them methodically, like sorting through work emails. Detached. Tinsley. 38 texts. Started with "baby, please call me" and escalated through "you're being dramatic" to "how could you humiliate me like that?" The lack of self-awareness was almost impressive. Her mother. 15 texts about how I'd ruined the dinner and owed them an apology. Apparently, walking out after being publicly insulted was the real offense here. Her father. 1 text. We need to discuss this like adults. Call me. Translation. I need to bully you into compliance, and this works better by phone. I blocked Tinsley's number, then her mom's, then her dad's, then her sister's. Felt like removing tumors. The wedding planner called at 9 a.m. sharp. I got your voicemail, she said carefully. I need to confirm you're canceling. The day before the wedding. That's correct. Long pause. Okay, so here's your breakdown. She started listing vendors. I did the math while she talked. I was looking at losing about $19,000. Money I'd been saving for 2.5 years. Birthday money, overtime pay, every spare dollar I could find. But here's the thing. I'd rather lose $19,000 than spend 50 years married to someone who thought I was beneath her. That's the kind of math that actually matters. The rings were a whole thing. I'd bought her engagement ring myself. $5,800 at a local jeweler. Tinsley had taken it off and left it on the table during the chaos. Trent doubled back after we'd reached the parking lot and grabbed it before her family could claim it. I drove to the jeweler that afternoon, expecting store credit. I can do 60%, he said, turning the ring over in his hands. Market's soft right now. Custom settings don't resell well. 60%? I bought this 8 months ago, and you're returning it 8 months later under circumstances that suggest you need the money fast. He shrugged. Supply and demand. Over $2,000 just gone because some guy knew I was desperate. Fine, I said. What choice did I have? Next problem, housing. I'd given my landlord 60-day notice back in March because I was supposed to move into Tinsley's condo after the wedding. Had about 3 weeks left on my lease. I called him up. Hey, any chance that notice is reversible? Long pause. Man, I wish you'd called yesterday. The new couple signed this morning. I ended up in a smaller unit across town. Same landlord, different building, worse location, older fixtures, and more per month because it was all he had available on short notice. Plus a rush application, plus a new security deposit because my old one was already allocated to the transition. The apartment smelled like the previous tenant's cigarettes for the first 3 weeks. The hot water took forever to kick in. But it was mine, and nobody in that building looked at me like I was a project they were working on. Another couple grand I hadn't budgeted for. The hits kept coming. Tinsley and I had opened a joint account 3 months ago. I'd put in $18,000. She'd put in $6,000. I called my bank, withdrew my $18,000, left her $6,000, and opened a new account at a completely different bank. Clean break. Day 3, her father called from a different number. I didn't recognize it, so I answered. "We need to discuss the financial obligations here," he said. No greeting. Straight to business. "I'm handling my vendors. You handle yours. The venue upgrade is non-refundable. That's $22,000. The orchestra cancellation fee is $8,000. The photographer's full fee is $6,500 since they'd already blocked the date. Your decision caused those losses. My decision? Your daughter publicly humiliated me. Funny how you're skipping that part. She made a poor choice of words. She's upset. We can work this out. I don't need anything except to not marry someone who thinks I'm beneath her. Don't be ridiculous. She doesn't think that." She literally said it, in front of both our families, while smiling. His voice got tight. "You're making a massive mistake. Do you understand what kind of life she could have given you?" And there it was, the real issue. They thought they were doing me a favor, lifting me up. I don't want a life someone gives me because they think they're doing charity work. I want a partner. She's not that. "You owe us $36,500. Sue me if you want. Should be a fun deposition." I hung up and blocked that number too. Day 5, a formal letter arrived, hand-delivered by courier, from their family attorney. It demanded $42,000 within 30 days. Emotional distress, reputational harm, financial losses. My lawyer's response: "This is intimidation dressed up as legal action. They have no case." 2 days later, he sent them a letter on his firm's letterhead that made their demand look like the legal equivalent of a toddler tantrum. That bought me about a week of silence. Then her father tried a different angle. He showed up at my parents' house, just walked up to the door on a Sunday afternoon. My dad answered, "Sir, I think we need to have a conversation about your son's behavior." My dad, who's about 5 feet 9 inches and built like a fire hydrant, looked up at this 6'2" real estate developer in his tailored coat and said, "My son's behavior was appropriate. Your daughter's wasn't. Get off my property. This doesn't have to be adversarial. We're reasonable people. The arrangement is you leave now." My mom appeared behind Dad with her phone in her hand. "I've already called the police. They'll be here in about 3 minutes. He left. The money pressure wasn't working, so they tried something nastier, making my actual life miserable. It started small, petty, almost funny. My phone started blowing up with calls from military recruiters, Army, Navy, Marines. All of them had my name, my number, and notes saying I was extremely interested. Please contact ASAP. Someone had submitted my info to every branch's recruitment database. I got 6 calls the first day, 8 the second. One recruiter left a voicemail at 6 a.m. asking if I was ready to serve my country. Had to individually call each branch and get removed from their lists. Annoying? Yes. Criminal? Borderline. Mostly just sad. Then, it escalated. Week 2, random people started showing up at my apartment. Different guys, different times of day, all asking about the free 65-inch TV listed on Facebook Marketplace. First guy seemed confused when I told him there was no TV. Second guy got irritated. Third guy showed me his phone. There it was. A Marketplace post with a photo of a nice Samsung, my apartment complex address, and instructions to just knock. He's expecting you. The listing was under a fake account, but the address was real. My address. I installed a doorbell camera that night. Over the next week, I counted 14 different people showing up at various hours. Some knocked politely, some banged on the door. One guy came back twice, convinced I was hiding the TV. I didn't open the door to any of them. Just let the camera roll and screenshot everything. Filed a police report on day 3. The officer was sympathetic, but realistic. We see this in bad breakups. Hard to prove who posted it, unless they're stupid enough to use their real account. I sent my lawyer the doorbell footage, the screenshots, the police report number. His response: "This is harassment, possibly stalking. Keep documenting. They're building our case for us." Then, a concerned citizen email went to one of our biggest commercial clients, suggesting they might want to verify the character of contractors working on their properties. My boss showed it to me. We laughed about it, but I could tell it made him nervous. I started keeping records of everything. Every contact attempt, every blocked number, every piece of mail, every random stranger at my door, physical backup in a fireproof safe, digital backup in the cloud. The rumor campaign started around the same time. Tinsley's sister Piper reached out to mutual friends, just checking in conversations that always circled back to how worried she was about my mental state. Then Tinsley showed up at one of my job sites with lunch. She walked right past the security checkpoint like she owned the place, carrying a brown bag from my favorite sandwich shop and 2 iced coffees, smiled at my foreman like they were old friends, waved at the crew. "Hey babe, thought you might be hungry." She held up the bag like a peace offering. "Got your usual. Turkey club, extra pickles, no tomato." My foreman was staring. 2 other guys from the crew had stopped working. I looked at her for a long moment. "We're not together. The wedding's off. You called me low class in front of our families. Remember that part?" Her smile didn't waver. "You're still upset. I get it. But we can work through this. Couples fight. We're not a couple." "Mason, you're being dramatic. Just take the sandwich and we can talk later. I was thinking we could reschedule for October. The venue has availability." She said it like she was discussing dinner plans, like the last few weeks of chaos hadn't happened, like the $42,000 demand letter her family's attorney sent didn't exist. Full delusion or full manipulation, couldn't tell the difference anymore. "I need you to leave." I drove all the way here, still smiling. "At least eat something. You always get cranky when you skip lunch." I turned to my foreman. "Call the cops. She's trespassing." Her smile finally cracked. "You're going to have me arrested? For bringing you lunch? For showing up at my workplace uninvited after your family tried to destroy my entire life? Yeah, leave now or wait for the officers. Your choice." She left, but not before loudly telling anyone who'd listen that I was clearly having some kind of breakdown, and she was just worried about him. Later that night, Piper's friend posted that Tinsley had tried to bring him a sweet romantic gesture, and I'd threatened to have her arrested for caring. The narrative spinners were working overtime. I filed for a restraining order the very next morning. My lawyer had been suggesting it since the marketplace stunt. Tinsley showing up at my job, playing concerned girlfriend for an audience, was the last straw. The hearing was 2 weeks later. I brought the doorbell cam footage, the marketplace screenshots, the police report, documentation of 14 strangers at my door, and a written statement from my foreman about her showing up uninvited. Her attorney tried to frame it as a miscommunication between people who still care about each other. The judge granted a temporary order. No contact, no approaching my residence or workplace, no third-party contact through family members. 6 months minimum. Tinsley cried in the courtroom. Her attorney tried to comfort her. I felt nothing. I screenshotted the order anyway. At this point, it was muscle memory. About that video from the rehearsal dinner. Tinsley's cousin's wedding week montage. It captured everything. My line, the stunned silence, the chaos after. It was supposed to stay in the family group chat. Humans have the self-control of toddlers with scissors. Within 3 days, it was making rounds at the country club. By week 2, someone posted it to a relationship drama subreddit. Rich people accidentally documented their own mess. Week 6, they went nuclear. A process server showed up with a lawsuit. Her father was suing me for $67,000 in damages. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Breach of implied contract. Tortious interference with family relationships. I called my lawyer. Can they win? No. They're trying to bury you in legal fees until you settle. How much up front? $3,500 retainer. That wiped out most of what I had left. The master electrician exam I'd paid for? Had to defer it. Next available date was 5 months out. File it, I said, and add everything. The marketplace doxing, the doorbell footage, the restraining order, her showing up at my job, all of it. My lawyer smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. 3 weeks later, he filed a motion to dismiss and a motion for sanctions. 27 pages showing a pattern of harassment. The fake marketplace listing. 14 strangers on doorbell cam. The restraining order hearing transcript. A timeline that made their behavior look exactly like what it was. Coordinated stalking. The judge wasn't buying opposing counsel's understandably emotional defense. Hard to call it isolated when there's video evidence of random men banging on someone's door at 11 p.m. demanding a TV that doesn't exist. 2 days before the sanctions hearing, their attorney dismissed the case without prejudice. Legal speak for, "We want to come back later if we feel like it." My lawyer told the judge we weren't done. You don't get to weaponize the court system like a country club membership perk and walk away clean. The judge agreed, partial sanctions granted. Her father got ordered to pay $6,200 toward my fees. Didn't cover everything. I still ate about $2,000, but that wasn't the point. But here's what mattered more than the money. The judge's comment in the order. The court is not a personal pressure tool for parties with resources to spare. That order became public record, searchable. Started showing up when people Googled her dad's name alongside his business listings. That's the kind of consequence rich circles actually fear, not morality. Search results. 7 months later, I was doing okay. Not great. Okay. Work was steady. The client email thing blew over once my boss realized it was personal drama, not a real concern. The master electrician exam I deferred, finally took it in month 7. Passed. The raise bumped me to $86,000. I'd started seeing someone, a woman named Renata I met at my buddy's birthday party, physical therapist. When I said electrician, she said, "That's awesome, my dad was a plumber." No nose wrinkle, no, "That's so practical." Just normal conversation. When I mentioned I fix my own car, she asked if I could teach her to change her own oil. Third date, we did exactly that in my apartment parking lot. She got grease on her jeans and laughed about it. Told her the whole story on our 4th date. Her response, "Your ex sounds exhausting. Also, her family sounds like they peaked in high school. No games, no hidden judgments, no correcting my pronunciation, just normal." As for Tinsley's family, the fallout was harder to see. The court sanctions were public record. A few people in their circle noticed. The video had made rounds. Country club gossip spreads fast when there's real drama. Her dad's foundation held their annual gala about 3 months later. Attendance was reportedly lower than usual. Could have been coincidence. Could have been some donors didn't want to be photographed next to "The court is not a personal pressure tool" guy. I heard Piper got a talking to from her firm about the phone calls to my employer. Couldn't confirm it. Someone told me the foundation lost a major donor. Something about a woman at the rehearsal dinner mentioning it to her husband, who sat on another non-profit board with Tinsley's mom. The last time I saw her father was about 8 months after the rehearsal dinner. I was at the county clerk's office picking up permit paperwork for a job. Walked out of the building and almost ran directly into him. He was coming out of the zoning appeals office. I'd heard his big mixed-use development, the Legacy Project, was having serious delays, permit issues, funding problems. A project partner had raised reputation concerns after doing basic due diligence, the kind that involves typing someone's name into Google. Whether the court sanctions and search results had anything to do with that, I don't know. Rich guys have complicated deals. Might be related, might not. Either way, not my problem. We both froze. He looked tired, older now, the tailored coat hanging off him, the boardroom confidence dimmer. "Mason," he said finally. "Sir." Silence. A woman walked past us with a stack of folders. "This didn't have to go this far," he said. I almost laughed. No, it didn't. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something else. Then he just shook his head and walked past me. That was it. No big speech, no final devastating line. Just 2 guys who almost ended up related, standing there with nothing to say. I stood there for a minute, watching him walk away. He got into his car, still a Mercedes, still expensive, still trying too hard, and drove off without looking back. I got in my truck and drove to work. I had a job in the morning, a new girlfriend who didn't flinch at hot sauce, a life that was actually mine. That was enough closure for me. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.